Who is Isabella Romano? I asked again, letting Elena sound curious and concerned. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. She was my business partner years ago. She committed insurance fraud and tried to blame me when she got caught. Victoria feels guilty because she testified against her, but we were only telling the truth. The lies rolled off his tongue so smoothly, so convincingly. If I hadn't lived through it, I might have believed him. That must have been difficult for you, Elena said softly. It was. I loved her, or thought I did. He took my hands. But she wasn't the person I thought she was. You, Elena, you're real. You're everything she pretended to be. I looked into his eyes and saw no remorse, no guilt, no recognition of the truth. He had rewritten history so completely in his mind that he believed his own lies. I should go, I said, gently extracting my hands. This has been an intense evening. Don't let Victoria's breakdown scare you away, Marcus said urgently. Please, Elena. I'm falling for you. I think you feel it too. I did let Elena waver. Let her show uncertainty and conflict. I need time to think, Marcus. This is all moving very fast. Take all the time you need, he said, lifting my hand to his lips. I'll be waiting. As I left the gala, Dylan fell into step beside me, his journalist cover allowing him to walk me out. That was close, he murmured. Too close. I clutched my purse where the photograph was hidden. Victoria is breaking down. We need to move faster. Agreed. Phoenix says she'll have the final evidence we need in 48 hours. Dylan glanced at me. Are you okay? What Victoria said about Isabella Romano made him tell me his version of the story, I finished, and confirmed that he feels nothing. No guilt, no remorse. He's rewritten history to make himself the hero. Then let's make sure history remembers the truth, Dylan said grimly. You're Elena Rossi, she said, swaying slightly. The perfect little consultant who has Marcus wrapped around her finger. Victoria, are you all right? I kept my voice concerned, careful. She laughed bitterly. He's going to destroy you too. That's what he does. He makes you believe, makes you trust, and then he burns your whole world down. My heart pounded. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Victoria grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. I see the way you look at him when he's not watching. Like you want to hurt him. I know that look because I wear it too. Before I could respond, Marcus appeared in the hallway. His expression when he saw us together was carefully controlled, but I caught a flash of concern. Victoria, you've had too much to drink, he said smoothly, moving to take her arm. Let me get you a car. She pulled away from him. Don't touch me. I'm not your next victim. She looked at me, her eyes focusing with sudden clarity. Run, Elena. Run before he destroys you like he destroyed Isabella Romano. The name hung in the air like a bomb. Marcus's eyes flickered to me, searching my face for any reaction. I kept Elena's expression confused and slightly alarmed. Who is Isabella Romano? I asked. No one important, Marcus said quickly. Victoria enough. You're making a scene. Victoria laughed again, the sound edging toward hysteria. No one important? You destroyed her. You framed her and sent her to prison and took everything she had. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. And I helped him. God forgive me, I helped him do it. Security arrived then, gently but firmly escorting Victoria out. Marcus turned to me, his expression apologetic and charming. I'm so sorry you had to witness that. Victoria has been under a lot of stress. She doesn't know what she's saying. The night everything burned. The smell of smoke woke me before the alarm did. I sat up in bed, my heart already racing, trying to understand why the air tasted wrong. Then I heard the screams from downstairs. My art gallery. My beautiful gallery that I had built from nothing over the past 5 years was on fire. I threw on clothes and ran barefoot down the emergency stairs of my apartment above the gallery. The heat hit me like a physical wall when I pushed open the door to the showroom. Orange flames danced across the walls, consuming the paintings I had carefully collected. Each piece represented a dream, a struggle, a victory. Now they were all turning to ash. No, 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 I sobbed, trying to rush forward, but strong hands pulled me back. Miss Romano, you can't go in there. A firefighter shouted over the roar of the flames. The building isn't safe. I watched helplessly as my entire world burned. The gallery wasn't just a business. It was my identity, my purpose, my proof that Isabella Romano had made something of herself despite growing up with nothing. And now it was disappearing into smoke and ash. ##### the morning after. The next morning, I stood in the rubble wearing the same smoke-stained clothes from the night before. The fire marshal walked toward me, his expression grave. Behind him, I noticed Marcus, my business partner and fiancé, talking quietly with two men in dark suits. Something about the way they looked at me made my skin crawl. "Miss Romano, I need to ask you some questions," the fire marshal said. "This fire wasn't an accident. It was deliberately set." My legs almost gave out. Someone burned down my gallery on purpose? Who would do this? That's what we're trying to determine. He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I understand you recently increased your insurance coverage on the building and its contents?" The question felt like a punch to the gut. "Yes, but only because I acquired several expensive pieces for the new exhibition. My insurance agent recommended it." "You can't possibly think." "We have to investigate all possibilities, Miss Romano." Marcus finally approached, his handsome face arranged into an expression of concern that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Isabella, darling, maybe you should get some rest. This has been traumatic." "How can I rest when everything is gone?" I looked at him, searching for comfort, for reassurance. "We built this together, Marcus. Our dream is destroyed." He took my hands, but his grip felt cold. "We'll rebuild. I promise." I wanted to believe him. I desperately wanted to believe that we would get through this together. But something in his voice sounded wrong. Like an actor reading lines he didn't quite believe. #### the accusation. 3 days later, 2 detectives showed up at my temporary apartment. They had a warrant for my arrest. The charges made my blood run cold. Insurance fraud and arson. "This is insane," I said, my voice shaking. "I would never burn down my own gallery. It was everything to me." The older detective, a woman with tired eyes, almost looked sympathetic. "Miss Romano, we have evidence that you were in serious financial trouble. Your business partner, Mr. Blackwood, has provided documents showing that the gallery was about to go bankrupt. He says you were desperate." "That's not true." "Marcus, tell them." I turned to where he stood in the doorway, expecting him to defend me. Instead, he looked away. "I'm sorry, Isabella," he said quietly. "I wanted to protect you, but I can't lie to the police. The gallery was losing money. You were stressed, not thinking clearly. I think you need help." The world tilted. This couldn't be happening. "Marcus, what are you saying? You know I didn't do this. You know me." He finally met my eyes, and what I saw there froze my heart. There was no warmth, no love, no concern. Just cold calculation. "I thought I knew you. But people do desperate things when they're cornered." As the detectives led me away in handcuffs, I saw Marcus watching from the window. He pulled out his phone, and even from a distance, I could see the small smile on his face. That's when I understood. This wasn't a tragedy. It was a betrayal. Marcus had destroyed everything, and he was framing me for it. #### 6 months in hell. Prison changed me. The Isabella Romano who entered those walls was naive, trusting, believing that love and hard work were enough. The woman who survived those 6 months was harder, sharper, and burning with a cold rage that kept her alive when despair tried to drag her under. My court-appointed lawyer was overworked and underpaid. The evidence against me was circumstantial but damning. Marcus testified that I had been acting strangely, that I had talked about the insurance money, that I had access to accelerants. All lies, but lies told convincingly by a man who knew exactly how to play the victim. I lost the trial. 6 months in prison plus 5 years probation, and a criminal record that would follow me forever. My reputation was destroyed. The art world, which had once celebrated me as a rising star, now whispered my name as a cautionary tale. In my cell at night, I would lie awake and plan. I didn't know how yet, but I would find out the truth. I would expose Marcus for what he was. And I would make him pay for stealing my life. ####freedom and discovery. The day I was released, I had nothing. No money, no home, no prospects. But I had something more valuable. Determination. I went to the only person I thought might still believe in me, my old friend Sarah, who ran a small cafe downtown. She took one look at me and pulled me into a fierce hug. "I never believed you did it," she whispered. "Not for 1 second." Those words broke something open inside me. I cried for the first time since the fire, letting out all the pain and rage and grief I had been holding inside. Sarah let me sleep in the room above her cafe and gave me a job washing dishes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and it gave me time to think and to investigate. I started digging into Marcus's life, carefully and quietly. What I discovered made my blood boil. 2 weeks after my arrest, Marcus had opened a new gallery in the most expensive part of the city. His business partner was Victoria Chun, a rival gallery owner who had always hated me. The opening exhibition featured paintings that looked suspiciously similar to pieces that had supposedly burned in my gallery. ####the man with answers. I was following Marcus one evening, keeping to the shadows, when someone grabbed my arm and pulled me into an alley. My prison survival instincts kicked in. I spun around with my fist raised, but the man held up his hands in surrender. "Easy, Isabella Romano. I'm on your side." He was tall and lean, with dark hair that fell over intense blue eyes. There was something about him that radiated intelligence and barely controlled anger. "Who are you?" I demanded. "And how do you know my name?" "Dylan Cross. I'm an investigative journalist. Or I was before Marcus Blackwood destroyed my career." He handed me a folder bulging with documents. "I've been investigating him for 2 years. He's done this before, Isabella. You're not his first victim." My hands trembled as I opened the folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, financial records, and statements from other people Marcus had ruined. A gallery owner in Chicago who had mysteriously disappeared. An art dealer in New York who had committed suicide after being accused of fraud. A pattern of destruction that went back almost a decade. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. Dylan's expression hardened. "Because my sister was one of his victims. She trusted him, loved him even. When he was done with her, she had nothing left. She took her own life 3 years ago." The pain in his voice was raw and real. We stood there in that alley, 2 broken people united by a common enemy, and an understanding passed between us without words. "I want to help you take him down," Dylan said. "I have evidence, connections, and skills. But I need someone on the inside, someone he won't suspect." "He'll recognize me," I said bitterly. Dylan smiled, and it was sharp as a knife. "Not if we make sure he doesn't." ###transformation. Over the next 3 weeks, Dylan and I worked together to create a new identity for me. He had a friend who was a master of disguise, a makeup artist who had worked in theater and film. Together they transformed me. My dark brown hair became honey blonde. Colored contacts changed my brown eyes to green. Strategic makeup altered the shape of my face. I learned to walk differently, to speak with a slight Italian accent, to carry myself with the confidence of someone who had never been broken. The woman who looked back at me from the mirror was a stranger. Elegant, sophisticated, mysterious. Someone Marcus would want to know, would want to possess, would never suspect was the woman whose life he had destroyed. "Meet Elena Rossi," Dylan said, admiration clear in his voice. "Art consultant from Milan, specializing in authenticating Renaissance paintings. She's brilliant, connected, and completely unavailable to men like Marcus Blackwood." I studied my reflection, testing the accent. "Until she decides he's worth her time." "Exactly." Dylan moved closer, his expression serious. "Isabella, once we start this, there's no going back. This isn't just about clearing your name anymore. This is about destroying him the way he destroyed you. Are you ready for that?" I thought about the flames consuming my gallery, about 6 months in prison for a crime I didn't commit, about all the other lives Marcus had ruined. I thought about Dylan's sister, who had been driven to such despair that death seemed like the only escape. "I'm ready," I said, and Elena Rossi smiled back at me from the mirror. "Let's burn his world down." ###the plan takes shape. Dylan's apartment became our war room. One wall was covered with photos, documents, and diagrams showing Marcus's network of criminal activity. He wasn't just committing insurance fraud. He was involved in art forgery, money laundering, and possibly worse. Victoria-chan is the key, Dylan explained, pointing to a photo of the elegant woman with sharp features. She provides the forged paintings. Marcus sells them through his gallery as originals. When someone gets too close to discovering the truth, they arrange an accident or frame them for a crime. Like what happened to me, I said, studying the web of connections. Exactly. But they're getting bolder, which means they're getting sloppy. Victoria has a gambling problem. She owes money to some very dangerous people. That's our way in. Over the next few days, we refined the plan. Elena Rossi would be introduced to Marcus through a carefully orchestrated encounter at an upcoming art auction. She would be knowledgeable, intriguing, and just successful enough to catch his attention. She would also have connections to potential buyers for his forged masterpieces. The night before the auction, I couldn't sleep. Dylan found me standing by the window watching the city lights. Having second thoughts? He asked quietly. No. Just remembering who I was before all this. Sometimes I miss her. That naive girl who believed in love and happy endings. Dylan stood beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth. You can't go back to being that person. But maybe when this is over you can become someone new. Someone who's been through fire and came out stronger. I turned to look at him. In the dim light, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. Over the past weeks, as we had planned and prepared together, something had shifted between us. An understanding, a connection forged in shared pain and purpose. What about you? I asked. What happens to Dylan Cross when this is over? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. For 3 years, revenge has been the only thing keeping me going. I don't know who I am without it. Then I guess we'll both have to figure out who we become after the ashes settle. He reached out and tucked a strand of my new blonde hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering against my cheek. Elena Rossi is impressive, but I'm rather fond of Isabella Romano. My breath caught. This wasn't part of the plan. Feelings, attraction, the possibility of something real, these were complications we couldn't afford. But as Dylan's eyes searched mine, I realized it was already too late. Somewhere between the planning and the transformation, between the anger and the hope, we had become something more than allies in revenge. Tomorrow, I would walk into Marcus Blackwood's world as Elena Rossi. I would smile at the man who had destroyed me and make him want me. I would play the most important role of my life. But tonight, I was still Isabella, standing with a man who understood my pain because he carried his own. And for just this moment before the game began, that was enough. Tomorrow changes everything, I whispered. Dylan nodded, his hand still cupping my face. Tomorrow we start taking back what was stolen. Tonight we remember why we're fighting. He pulled me close, and I let myself lean into his strength. Tomorrow would be about deception and revenge. But tonight was about the truth. About 2 damaged people finding something unexpected in the ruins of their lives. Hope, connection, and the possibility that even in the pursuit of revenge, love might somehow find a way to bloom. Welcome to Burning for Redemption. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The journey of revenge and redemption has just begun. The auction. The Grand Bellevue Hotel ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and champagne glasses. I stood at the entrance in a deep emerald dress that Elena Rossi would wear, confident and untouchable. My heart pounded beneath the elegant facade, but my hands were steady. Dylan's voice whispered through the tiny earpiece hidden beneath my hair. You look perfect. Remember, you're Elena Rossi. You own this room. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The auction preview was packed with the city's elite, all of them examining the paintings with practiced eyes. And there across the room stood Marcus Blackwood. He looked exactly as I remembered. Tall, handsome, impeccably dressed. The same smile that had once made me believe in love now made my stomach turn. Victoria-chan stood beside him, her elegant frame draped in designer silk. They were laughing about something comfortable and victorious. They had no idea their carefully constructed world was about to crumble. I moved through the crowd with deliberate grace, letting myself be seen but not approaching. The key was to make Marcus come to me. I stopped before a Renaissance painting, studying it with apparent fascination. Caravaggio, a voice said beside me. Or at least, that's what the catalog claims. I turned slowly, meeting Marcus's eyes for the first time in 7 months. My heart screamed recognition, but Elena Rossi merely smiled politely. The brushwork is excellent, but something about the canvas preparation seems inconsistent with Caravaggio's known techniques. Marcus's eyes lit up with interest. You have a trained eye. Marcus Blackwood. He extended his hand. I let him wait just a moment before taking it. Elena Rossi, art consultant from Milan. His grip lingered longer than necessary, his gaze traveling over me with unmistakable interest. I don't believe I've seen you at these events before. Are you new to the city? I travel frequently, but I'm here for several months consulting with private collectors. I withdrew my hand and returned my attention to the painting. This piece, for instance. My client would never pay authentic prices for questionable attribution. You think it's a forgery? Marcus moved closer, intrigued. I think it requires more thorough examination than an auction house catalog provides. I glanced at him through lowered lashes. In my experience, Mr. Blackwood, the art world is full of beautiful deceptions. The double meaning hung in the air. Marcus smiled, and I saw the predator beneath the charm. Please call me Marcus. And you're absolutely right. Which is why it's refreshing to meet someone who can see through the deceptions. Some of them, I agreed. The clever ones take more time to expose. #### the seduction. Over the next 3 weeks, I became a fixture in Marcus's world. He invited me to gallery openings, private viewings, intimate dinners. Each encounter was carefully orchestrated. I was interested but not eager, sophisticated but not cold, knowledgeable enough to impress him but naive enough about his business to make him feel safe. Victoria watched me with suspicious eyes, but Marcus was too intoxicated by the chase to notice. He was used to women falling at his feet. Elena Rossi made him work for every smile, every touch, every moment of her time. Dylan tracked my every move from a distance, feeding me information through the earpiece, helping me navigate conversations. But lately, his voice in my ear held an edge of tension I hadn't heard before. He's touching your arm again, Dylan said one evening as I sat across from Marcus at an exclusive restaurant. Tell me again why you have to let him touch you. Because that's the plan, I whispered when Marcus excused himself to take a phone call. We need him emotionally invested. Right. The plan. Dylan's voice was tight. Just remember who he really is, Isabella. I remember, I said softly. Every single day. But Dylan was right to worry. Playing Elena Rossi meant spending hours with Marcus, laughing at his jokes, listening to his stories, pretending to be charmed. And the most dangerous part was how easy it was becoming. Marcus was intelligent, cultured, and attentive when he wanted to be. I could almost understand how I had fallen for him once. Almost. But then I would remember the flames, the prison cell, the cold calculation in his eyes when he betrayed me. #### breaking into the network. While Elena Rossi charmed Marcus, Dylan worked the technical side. He had recruited a hacker named Phoenix, a young woman who could break through almost any security system. Together, they penetrated Marcus's digital fortress. What they found was worse than we had imagined. Marcus and Victoria weren't just selling forged paintings. They were running a sophisticated money laundering operation for several criminal organizations. The art sales were just the surface. Beneath that was a network of illegal transactions worth millions. This is bigger than we thought, Dylan said when I met him at a safe house after another dinner with Marcus. If we expose this, we're not just taking down Marcus. We're disrupting serious criminal enterprises. Good, I said, pulling off Elena's blonde wig and rubbing my scalp. Let it all burn. Dylan caught my wrist, his grip gentle but firm. Isabella, these people are dangerous. If they figure out what we're doing, they won't. I met his eyes, seeing the worry there. We're too careful. Are we? He pulled me closer. Because every time you're with him, every time I watch him touch you and smile at you, I want to storm in there and end this the direct way. My breath caught. Dylan. I know it's not part of the plan, he said roughly. I know I'm supposed to stay detached, professional. But watching you with him, pretending to care about him, it's killing me, Isabella. His confession hung between us, raw and honest. We had been dancing around this for weeks, the attraction that had grown from shared purpose into something deeper, something complicated. It's just an act, I whispered. Elena Rossi might smile at him, but Isabella Romano wants to watch him burn. And what does Isabella Romano want from me? The question was loaded with unspoken meaning. I could feel his heartbeat against my palm, fast and strong. This was dangerous territory. Letting feelings develop, letting this become about more than revenge, it could compromise everything. But I was tired of lying. I lied to Marcus every day, every conversation. At least with Dylan I could be honest. She wants you, I admitted. She wants to forget about revenge and plans and justice, just for a moment, and remember what it feels like to be real with someone. Dylan's kiss was nothing like Marcus's calculated charm. It was hungry, desperate, honest. I melted into him, letting Elena's facade crack completely, letting Isabella emerge in all her damaged, burning, hopeful glory. When we finally broke apart, breathless and shaking, Dylan rested his forehead against mine. After this is over, we'll figure out who we are without revenge driving us, I finished. But first we finish what we started. Victoria's weakness. The break came from an unexpected source. Phoenix discovered that Victoria was in deep with illegal gambling operations, owing over $2 million to people who didn't accept excuses. She had been using money from the art fraud to pay her debts, but it wasn't enough. She was getting desperate. We can use this, Dylan said, spreading documents across the table. Offer her a way out in exchange for testimony against Marcus. I studied Victoria's financial records, seeing the desperation in the numbers. She'll never betray him. They're partners. Partners because they need each other, Dylan countered. But if we can show her that Marcus is planning to throw her under the bus. I smiled slowly. We create evidence that Marcus is preparing to frame her for everything. Make her think she's the next Isabella Romano. Over the next week we carefully planted seeds of doubt. Anonymous messages to Victoria hinting that Marcus was talking to prosecutors. Fabricated emails suggesting he was building a case against her. We played on her paranoia and her fear, watching as the partners' relationship developed cracks. Meanwhile, Elena Rossi grew closer to Marcus. He was falling for her, or at least for the illusion of her. He talked about the future, about opening galleries together, about building something permanent. "I've never met anyone like you," he said one evening as we walked through his latest gallery acquisition. "You understand the art, the business, the beauty of what we could create together." "We've only known each other a few weeks," I said, keeping Elena's tone light and cautious. "Sometimes you know," Marcus insisted. He stopped walking and turned to face me. "I was with someone once. I thought I loved her, but she turned out to be weak, desperate. She would have destroyed everything I built." The casual cruelty of his words, the dismissal of what we had shared, strengthened my resolve. He had rewritten history in his mind, made himself the victim and me the villain. "What happened to her?" I asked, my voice perfectly neutral. "She's in prison where she belongs." He took my hands. "But you're nothing like her, Elena. You're strong, sophisticated, real." I wanted to rip off the blonde wig and scream the truth in his face. Instead, Elena smiled mysteriously. "People are rarely what they seem, Marcus. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who've been broken and rebuilt themselves." #### the photograph. The plan was progressing perfectly until the night of Marcus's private gala. I arrived as Elena, stunning in a gold dress that caught the light with every movement. Dylan was there too, posing as an art journalist, his camera giving him access to every corner of the event. I was working the room, gathering evidence and building connections when I saw it. On Marcus's desk in his private office, where I had slipped in to photograph documents, there was a photo frame I hadn't noticed before. My hand froze over the camera. It was a picture from 2 years ago, Marcus and me at the opening of my gallery. We were smiling, his arm around my waist, both of us looking young and happy and hopeful. He had kept it. For a moment doubt crept in. Why would he keep a photo of someone he betrayed so completely? Had there been real feelings beneath the deception? Did any of it mean anything? "Isabella, you need to get out of there." Dylan's voice cut through my thoughts. "Security is doing rounds early." I grabbed the photograph, slipping it into my purse before photographing the documents on his desk. As I left the office, I nearly collided with Victoria. Her eyes were wild, makeup smudged, the smell of alcohol sharp on her breath. "You're Elena Rossi," she said, swaying slightly. "The perfect little consultant who has Marcus wrapped around her finger." "Victoria, are you all right?" I kept my voice concerned, careful. She laughed bitterly. "He's going to destroy you too. That's what he does. He makes you believe, makes you trust, and then he burns your whole world down." My heart pounded. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Victoria grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "I see the way you look at him when he's not watching. Like you want to hurt him." "I know that look because I wear it too." Before I could respond, Marcus appeared in the hallway. His expression when he saw us together was carefully controlled, but I caught a flash of concern. "Victoria, you've had too much to drink," he said smoothly, moving to take her arm. "Let me get you a car." She pulled away from him. "Don't touch me. I'm not your next victim." She looked at me, her eyes focusing with sudden clarity. "Run, Elena. Run before he destroys you like he destroyed Isabella Romano." The name hung in the air like a bomb. Marcus's eyes flickered to me, searching my face for any reaction. I kept Elena's expression confused and slightly alarmed. "Who is Isabella Romano?" I asked. "No one important," Marcus said quickly. "Victoria enough. You're making a scene." Victoria laughed again, the sound edging toward hysteria. "No one important? You destroyed her. You framed her and sent her to prison and took everything she had." She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "And I helped him. God forgive me, I helped him do it." Security arrived then, gently but firmly escorting Victoria out. Marcus turned to me, his expression apologetic and charming. "I'm so sorry you had to witness that. Victoria has been under a lot of stress. She doesn't know what she's saying."